We're in the NFL playoffs, so let's talk about head coaching jobs and the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule was established by the NFL in 2002 after civil rights attorneys Cyrus, Mehri, and Johnnie Cochran released a study showing black head coaches were less likely to be hired and more likely to be fired than their white counterparts, despite winning a higher percentage of games. And Cochran threatened to sue them. So that's how the rule came into action, and it gets its name from Steelers owner Dan Rooney, who was the chairman of the NFL's diversity committee at the time. Now, the Rooney Rule isn't broken. It does exactly what it said it would do. Force NFL owners to interview at least one minority candidate for any head coaching position. This is in a league where the labor is 70% black. It's the NFL's only attempt to be like any other business in America that has to submit to Equal Employment Opportunity Commission law. Problem is, like any other business, there's no law saying you have to hire a minority for a job, but it's becoming utterly, blindingly obvious how little the NFL's owners, and to a degree, their head coaches, care about the rule or want to force themselves to act within its intent. Jerry Jones hired Mike McCarthy after interviewing his Rooney Rule candidate, Marvin Lewis. Now, forget that Lewis looks like a token candidate interviewed to check a box, because he was. And remember, the Dallas Cowboys have never had a black head coach. This, though the 2019 Dallas Cowboys defense play caller, Chris Richard, is indeed black. And Richard, like Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, are two rising stars in the industry. Bieniemy has interviewed for several head coaching positions over the last 2 years, including the New York Giant and Carolina Panthers post. Somehow, a fella named Joe Judge, who has less success running a show than Mike Judge, ends up getting the Giants job as the rest of us scratch our heads. Now, he worked for Bill Belichick and Nick Saban for over a decade. Cuckoo asked Josh McDaniels how that helped him keep his job in Denver, or Matt Patricia, and how that helped him keep his job in Detroit that he has still now, to which Money Fixer like, yo, RJ, Patricia lost Stafford to the season, and Mike Tomlin lost Ben Roethlisberger? But you know what? Eat this. Jim Caldwell designed an offense that won a Super Bowl, and he led the Colts to a 24-8 record over 2 seasons, and then Peyton Manning showed up washed. He got fired that year. Then Detroit led that franchise in Detroit to a 36-28 record over 4 regular seasons. Patricia is 9-22-1 over 2 years. Now, tell me Patricia is a better coach than Caldwell with a straight face. Carolina Panthers owner David Tepper flew to Waco, Texas, and backed up a truckload of money to Matt Rule's house after losing his last 2 games that he coached at Baylor instead of going to Bieniemy's door, even though he is an offensive coordinator of a sexy pick to win the Super Bowl this year and is still coaching as a part of, 10 teams over this weekend across 2 sports, still playing football after January 7th? Hello. Somehow Freddie friggin' Kitchens got a gig before Bieniemy, whose predecessors include Doug Peterson and Matt Nagy. Both got gigs, and Peterson won a Super Bowl. No big. For once, we got to look to Dan Snyder for looking good. Hiring Ron Rivera, the Latinx dude, for helping the NFL equal its mark for hiring minorities as head coaches in 2018 at a whopping 1 for 32 through the first week of 2020. Allow me to point out Chris Grier is the only black GM in the league, that Bieniemy and Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich are the only 2 black OCs in the league, that there are just 2 black quarterback coaches in the league, that it's as much the NFL owner's fault as it is his head coaches for not hiring black assistants in a league that is dominated by black labor. They will ignore not just the intent of the Rooney Rule, but the Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship exists. The fellowship began in 1987 and was, quote, designed as a vocational tool to increase the number of full-time NFL minority coaches, and all 32 NFL clubs participate each year. Crucially, the NFL does not mandate any elements of the fellowship to the clubs, but it recommends several best practices, including hiring participants for the duration of training camp, including all preseason games, encouraging clubs to hire a minimum of 4 participants, with at least 2 of them having an offensive coaching background, mentoring participants in the form of continuing and constructive feedback regarding their work while with the club. It's a friggin' internship, people. As part of the program's evolution, in 2012, the NFL announced the formation of the Bill Walsh Diversity Fellowship Advisory Council, comprised of a distinguished group of NFL coaches and general managers to try to help further this thing. Now, Walsh Diversity Fellowship alumni head coaches include Raheem Morris, Lovie Smith, Mike Tomlin, Ron Rivera, and Marvin Lewis. That's it. But that's also a damn good lie, because check this out. Goodness me. 2015 alumni include Bobby Ingram, Brinston Buckner, Leon Lett, Ron Prince, Al Harris, Pepper Johnson, Rod Woodson, and Deuce Staley. See what I mean about a damn good lie? Because that's a damn good list. Matter of fact, it sounds like a rich crop of some of the most talented folks to ever play pro football, let alone coach it. Now, couple that with knowing that in 2018, Hugh Jackson, Steve Wilkes, Vance Joseph, and Todd Bowles all got fired, leaving the league with just these guys as their head coaches that happen to be black: Anthony Lynn, Brian Flores, and Mike Tomlin. 3 dudes in a 32-team league in 2019. Shouts to friend of the program, Doug Farrar, for this excerpt. According to a recent study conducted by the Global Sport Institute at Arizona State University, along with the Paul Robeson Research Center for Innovative Academic and Athletic Prowess at the University of Central Florida College of Business, say that 5 times fast and you'll die, the road to an NFL head coaching gig is as an offensive coordinator. Since 2009, nearly 40% of head coaches hired were former offensive coordinators, and at least 77% of those offensive coordinators each season were white. During the 2010, 2011, and 2016 hiring seasons, every newly hired offensive coordinator was white. And since 2009, 91% of offensive coordinators hired have been white. At this time, Bieniemy and Byron Leftwich are the NFL's only black offensive coordinators. The study also showed that after leaving a position, 14% of white coaches were hired as head coaches again the following season, compared with just 7% of minority coaches. And all 7% is Hugh Jackson, who is the only black coach pulling off that trick. Meanwhile, teams have rehired Mike Mularkey twice, John Fox twice, Chip Kelly, Adam Gase, Pat Shurmur. What the hell has Pat Shurmur done in the league? Bruce Arians, Doug Marrone, and Mike McCarthy. But those are stats. Here's the narrative. NFL Network's Jim Trotter said he received a text from an NFL assistant coach who happens to be black. It read, quote, "The NFL has finally shown it's not a place for black men to advance. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting. We can sell tickets and we can make plays, but we can't lead," end quote. And now I'm sad because I want to believe in the NFL. But I ask you, what's the point of me believing in that league if it doesn't believe in the people who look like me? Deuces.